Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's Friday. Woo! Let's go. Thank you, guys. We're going to spend some time talking about Peridot. I hope you all play Peridot. I hope you've all hatched your own dots and are raising them and breeding them and diversifying the dot community out there. Yes, I know you are. So we're going to talk a little bit about the genesis of Peridot, what went into the development of the game, how we brought it to market, all the different sort of elements of our launch plan, and how we used our own tech to promote our own tech, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. All right, well, let's get into it. So we launched Peridot globally on May 9th, and hopefully, again, you've all downloaded and played it. If not, today's a great day to do it. But really, Peridot's a culmination of all the latest features of our Lightship platform, and it's really built for the world that we're going to be living in soon, which is an eyes-up world, not necessarily an eyes-down world, right? But for all the smartphones and devices in our pockets that we're staring at all day, we had to render it so it was capable of something you could experience walking and looking as you do. But eventually, you can imagine the world we're going to live in where you're just going to be walking around with it in a much more seamless way. But we announced this amazing new IP a little over a year ago. It's our first original IP, wholly owned IP in 10 plus years since Ingress. And we were blown away by the groundswell of excitement that began kind of immediately. So the fan art started pouring in once we put the teaser up and we made our first blog announcement. And this is just an example of some of the sort of incredible, amazing and inspired dot art that was being circulated organically many months before we brought this to market, with people speculating what it was going to be like, imagining this sort of mythical fantasy world with all these magical creatures that were soon going to be coming to life that they were going to be raising. So as the game development progressed, we produced a series of teasers and trailers to keep that fandom building. And I'm just going to share with you the final launch trailer that went live right before the game launched. Wi-Fi is not our friend at this festival. It's just adorable. And that's what we needed on a Friday morning. So a little bit more about what went into this Forever franchise. That is how we think about all of our games and all the IP that we create, because we want it to be experienced and played multi-generationally, that people could pass down to their kids and friends and family. But it takes a lot to develop that, especially with new and original IP. And I'm going to try to boil it down to some core ingredients. First, it's got to be a groundbreaking experience. And in this case, for us, a groundbreaking AR experience, particularly when you think about cross-platform accessibility, when you think about next-gen devices. A lot of people liken this to an AR Tamagotchi. And it's kind of like the easiest way to explain it to someone who's not as savvy or maybe not as in the know, and people instantly get it. And when they see it, it is truly a groundbreaking experience. You also have to create new habits. So much like taking care of a pet in real life, there are everyday activities and adventures that are going to drive the longevity of this gameplay. You got to get out, you got to move, you've got to care for it, you've got to check in on it, you've got to feed it. It's an activity-based game, and we want to make sure that people are making those activities into habits. And much like what's core to our mission to get people out, exploring the world together, we want to make sure that we're getting people out exploring the world with their Peridots, and building community and doing this not just as individuals, but as people living together, moving together out in the world. And lastly, it's got to be a 360 brand. We want to make sure that the Peridot brand is extensible in a number of ways, whether it's through live events and collaborations, through commerce, even extending the IP to other channels and formats that we might not have even thought of yet. So this is just the start. And we want our audience, who are largely Gen Z, millennial gamers, and tech urbanites, to really fully understand the purpose of this product, and that is to fall in love with these creatures, which is really, really easy to do. And if you fall in love with them, you should be compelled to explore the world, nurturing them, breeding them, discovering new ones, and diversifying the species. And if we do that, we think we're going to win. So a quick, simple overview of how to start and play. From adopting your one-of-a-kind dot, and yes, each one is truly genetically unique, one of one. I don't know how we do it, don't ask me how, but there are an infinite number of permutations of dots, to playing with them, to training them, raising them, breeding them. It's fairly intuitive, it's easy to do, and it's fun. And in line with our core mission to inspire movement and exploration, it's a 100% activity-based game that is all done through AR. And it really brings to life so many of the cutting-edge tools that we've talked about this week, and is a culmination of all of these incredible features of our Lightship platform and ARDK, from real-time mapping and location-based AR that creates really unique experiences based on where you are, to occlusion for more lifelike interactions with the real world around you and the objects that you might encounter when you're out on your walks, to segmentation that helps you understand the environment around you. So your dot would forage for different kinds of food on the ground versus the grass, right? And it might perform different tricks in water versus something in the street versus something in the air. And the more that you play, the more that it's going to learn. And that's another kind of secret behind it. So it does grow with you. It does learn through your habits, and it does continue to evolve as you do through your gameplay experience. And I mentioned there's an infinite number of dots that can be created, that can exist, and that's all based on this proprietary behavioral system that generates all these unique personalities. And there's a few attributes here, some personality traits, and we combine that with different appearances, different colors, different characteristics, and that creates each unique dot. And again, the amazing team behind this won't tell you how, but you got to go experience it for yourself. So, how do we bring that to market? And why are we bringing it to market? Like, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to establish outside of just launching this game? And above all, cementing our position and our leadership in being known for this real innovative, cutting-edge, real-world technology. There are really four core pieces of the strategy. One, establishing the franchise. Two, winning the audience, largely this younger, next-gen audience. Three, building community, and four, as I mentioned, extending the brand, making sure that it's not just a one-off, it's something that could live in multiple places, be experienced in lots of different ways. And we're able to do this in a multitude of ways, right? From establishing that tagline, always by your side, that you might have seen early on in the presentation, to the launch trailers and social content, to connecting with creators on some of the most influential platforms to reach our target audience, to extending with strategic partners and new platforms and new markets that we think can help spread the word that much further amongst people that have a real high propensity to engage in this kind of an experience, whether they use other pet simulation games, they're just fans of AR, they have high-end devices, or they just want to have like the latest and greatest experiences to be at the tip of the spear when it comes to technology. So a lot happened in the months leading up to it, and one of the big things was creating a series of assets to help promote pre-registration. So people can sign up and we can message to them and we could make sure it was ready to download on launch day. And actually one of the things that we did leading up to it through a series of events, including South by Southwest, was to create WebAR activations. So if you've seen the viewfinder floating around here the past couple of days, and if you haven't, you'll see it this afternoon, we created a custom video filter where you could create a piece of content with a bunch of dots, and that's on the, well, it depends where you're looking, but you see it on the screen. So you can keep and share that on your social channels and just stay top of mind and get excited about what you can imagine the relationship is that you're going to have when you're using the app. And it was a huge hit at South by, drove a lot of buzz, drove a lot of social content, and a lot of anticipation, as it was just weeks before the game was launching globally. And if you haven't seen Peridot on TikTok, what you might not know is that was where we went all in to really create this cultural zeitgeist for the game amongst an incredibly hungry audience. You've probably heard TikTok made me buy it for all these new commerce trends, and you might not have heard TikTok made me play it. And what we found was over 40% of gamers that experience new content on TikTok download and play. And to us, we saw it as a huge opportunity to break through and disrupt and create a really unique program to bring this game to market in ways that traditionally we wouldn't have been able to, and maybe we wouldn't have done in the past. But for this audience, who's just hungry for short-form content, who's hungry to create content, to sort of create community around it, we thought it was a great opportunity to go all in. And all the content that we're able to create here, we could repurpose on other channels for Reels, for YouTube Shorts, on Twitter and Facebook, everywhere. But it really started with cementing the lore of Peridot on TikTok. So we tapped into multiple communities, from cohorts like cozy gamers to adventurers and travelers to makeup artists and dreamers, animal lovers, and so many more, to be TikTok first in the content that we created, because we know it would just carry that much more weight. And it generated something to the tune of 125 plus million views of content just in those first couple of weeks of launch across these channels, and that was a huge success for us. And as part of our collaboration with TikTok, we also announced that we're hosting a challenge with TikTok Effect House. And that encourages, if I can get to play. So that encourages people who are creators on the platform to create their own effects using Peridot IP that the broader creator community can leverage in their content. And that challenge just launched about a week ago and is running through June 21st with a $10,000 prize to the best content creators. So again, adding to the community, adding to that content curation and creation, adding to that groundswell of activity that we think organically makes this thing larger than life. Back to the fandom for a minute, we continue to see lots and lots and lots of love and creativity and sharing across social media, from pre-launch all the way up to launch, all the way to how we're tapping into this creator community. And it's just been so wildly well received. So given all that demand, and given all this cutting edge technology, and given this sort of cutting edge audience that we're trying to tap into, we did have one more idea. And I had mentioned at the top of this talk, how do we use our own tech to promote our own tech? And one of those ways was tapping into the 8th Wall platform to offer this audience a small preview of what the Peridot experience might be. And you saw it in that viewfinder activation we brought at South by, or you might have experienced here. But we wanted to create something that was more readily available and accessible across social, and something that organically people could discover who were in these cohorts we're trying to reach. So we created an experience called Snap-a-Dot. And that is a little teaser where you could interact with Klee. And Klee is the illustrious purple dot, the first dot that was ever discovered. And you can interact with Klee and pose them and create WebAR content for social sharing wherever you might be adventuring. So while you're out and about on a walk, if you're walking these halls, if you're in the city, you can access that through a URL or a QR code and have that little sort of mini Peridot experience to create a piece of content and keep it, share it, and circulate it right then and there. And this is something we leverage organically in that month leading up to drive more pre-registrations on both the app stores and also to drive more installs post-launch. And that was accompanied with an AR photo contest and social sweepstakes to drum up more activity and drive further social sharing and social currency. And let me show you a little bit more about it. So if you've played, or as I mentioned, one of the main features is creating these moments and these memories with your dot, especially as they grow and they evolve, and you find different things that you want to share with them as they interact with the world around you. So how do we take that aspect of the game before anyone's played the game and actually let them enjoy it? So if we could take that piece of gameplay experience out of the app and bring it into WebAR, we thought we might be able to create a whole series of new moments. And when we talked to the team about the brief to do this, we kind of immediately knew that there was a project with using other characters and cameras, that would be a great place to start. So if you've played around the Eighth Wall project library, you know that you can find things for inspiration, clone them, and kind of not have to start from scratch, which was really important for us because of the launch coming up and the speed to market that we had to hit. So we dug into the project library, found something similar, and then we added Peridot assets to make it unique to Peridot. And again, how can we move fast? What can we learn? What could be the sort of like path to least resistance and easiest way to bring it to market? One of the hurdles that we had to overcome, though, was we had to take these character assets out of an app-based game and make them accessible for WebAR, which might be a little bit harder than you might think, especially if we haven't operated in that fashion. But after laying out all the requirements, we found a way to make it easy to adapt them. It only took us a couple weeks to create this experience, which benefits every other project to follow, because once it was done, we were able to post it back to that project library, make it accessible for lots of other people to be inspired by, and create that next experience inspired by Snapidot. So the character asset was the main thing that we needed to extract. And once we adapted that and got the right animation clips and the right files and the right sort of like customizations of logos for this experience, it was off to the races. So if you haven't experienced it, here's a sort of like quick panel of what it's like. And we've got a QR code over here on the left that you could play around with it and create your own Snapidot experience. But we tapped a number of folks across our teams to make this happen. It was certainly scrappy and roll up the sleeves, but we tapped folks from tech, art, animation, direct marketing team, the WebAR development team. And again, all of that knowledge and collaboration made it so much easier for us to move fast and develop something that was really true to the game, but that we also feel is going to be useful and beneficial for people that are creating that next-gen experience for launching their games and bringing their IP to life. So it was featured prominently on the Eighth Wall site and proudly, and in the project library, so we could share it with our partners and again inspire that next level of creativity for those next projects. And you can imagine, just like everything else that we've put out around this game, the audiences loved it. Snapidot drove tens and tens of thousands of additional organic views during those pre-launch weeks leading up to launch, but it also generated a ton of time spent, almost 45 seconds on average in camera with this experience for everyone that encountered it in every market. And for us, that gave us a huge boost from a social content standpoint. It drove more engagement, it drove more registrations, and it kept that Peridot zeitgeist top of mind in yet another way, and added to that sort of asset library and that those building blocks that made this plan just a huge success, and really help propel the game to the heights that we think it's going to get to. So to sum it all up, this team dreamt and built and brought to market something that's just like really, truly magical and remarkable. And it's been amazing to see it come to life and watching it grow, no pun intended, maybe a pun intended. Watching it grow has been pretty fascinating over this past month. But we could really sum up in sort of 4 key points what you need to take away to bring your own experience to life. And it's creating that backstory of assets to build interest and momentum, right? Establishing the franchise at the outset, making sure that you're kind of like laying the tracks for what it is that you want the audience to experience. Knowing that audience, embracing them, right? Where are they? Where are they spending time? What are they interested in? How can you win them over? How can you create fandom at the sort of outset and turn them into advocates kind of instantly and tap into their creative zeitgeist to be part of the creative zeitgeist that you want to create. Creating content that brings that experience to life, right? You have to engage with content, and that's not one size fits all. I showed you trailer videos, I showed you social media, I showed you WebAR experiences. All of these things sort of add up to the building blocks that you need to launch something successfully. Again, it's going to be different in each instance. It's going to have to be purpose-built for the platform that you're on, for the audience that you're trying to reach, maybe for the type of experience that you're trying to bring to life. And lastly, extending it with partners and platforms that make sense. Where are you best going to be able to reach people? What are the right moments to bring something to market? When you're in those spaces and places, what are the right elements to bring forward that can help you build a robust community and have a really successful launch and a forever franchise of your own?